Why Joe Biden can still hurt America. Bad. Who is really running the country? Look what the media said about the president. Everywhere the president's health was a major topic, though it was discussed largely in whispers. The political implications weren't lost on the experienced polls of the Democratic Party leading up to the Democrat convention. Anyone would surely realize from the appearance of the president that he is not a well man, and there is not a chance in the world for him to carry on for 4 years more. He just can't survive another presidential term. Hundreds of persons, high and low, reported to me that he looked bad. His mind wandered, his hands shook, his jaw sagged, and he tired easily. He would start talking about something, then in mid-sentence he would stop and his mouth would drop open. And he sat staring at me in silence. His condition had deteriorated markedly in the less than 2 weeks since I had seen him. He was not only frail and desperately tired. Everyone noticed the president's condition, and we in the American delegation began to talk among ourselves about the basic state of his health. All of this, however, was kept secret from the public. But it became apparent to the people in power behind the scenes that the efforts of the Washington press corps in concealing his infirmity from the public could not succeed forever. The 2012 book titled Stalin's Secret Agents: The Subversion of Roosevelt's Government by M. Stanton Evans. The book also tells about the Yalta Conference in 1945, where the future of the post-World War II world was decided. By the time of Yalta, it was clear that the Germans and Japanese would be defeated, and that the Allies, especially Roosevelt and Stalin, held in their hands the fate of the nations and hundreds of millions of people who had survived the war. The stakes were huge, but the media hid the truth. Roosevelt was incapacitated and often incoherent. His inability to make decisions led to the Soviet Empire enslaving so much of the world. To quote M. Stanton Evans' book again, about Yalta, even the admiring Harry Hopkins, who did have policy input at Yalta, would later say he doubted that Roosevelt had heard half of what had been said at the Yalta sessions. At Yalta, FDR would make even more peculiar statements in terms highly embarrassing to his supporters. One of his strangest comments concerned an upcoming visit with Saudi Arabia's King Ibn Saud, scheduled immediately after the Yalta summit. When Stalin asked what concessions Roosevelt might make to Saud in dealing with Middle Eastern issues, the president replied that there was only one concession that he might make, and that was to give him, Ibn Saud, the 6 million Jews in the United States. Though this astounding comment was edited out of the official record, it survives in the minutes preserved at the Roosevelt Library in Hyde Park, New York, and in the Stettinius Papers. In 2024, the American public did not know the truth about how incapacitated Joe Biden was, because the leftist media hid the truth. In 1944, the American public does not know how incapacitated Franklin Roosevelt was, because leftist historians hid the truth. What does this mean to the country and the nation, to America and to the United States? Think about it this way. The country and the nation are somewhat different things. For example, the country could exist with very little government or with no government at all. But the nation cannot. In some ways, the national government is the state. In 1791, after the Revolution, Thomas Paine wrote this in his book, The Rights of Man, quote, "For upwards of 2 years from the commencement of the American War, and to a longer period in several of the American states, there were no established forms of government. The old governments had been abolished, and the country was too much occupied in defense to employ its attention in establishing new governments. Yet during this interval, order and harmony were preserved as inviolate as in any country in Europe. The more perfect civilization is, the less occasion has it for government, because the more does it regulate its own affairs and govern itself. Obviously, America, the country, and the United States, the nation, are not completely separate. They do overlap, at least. But maybe still, they are not exactly the same thing. The country is the society, the culture, the people. But the nation is the state. The state must have a government, and in some senses, the government is the state. That the country, society, and the nation-state are different things may be the best way to think about them in most cases. For example, presidents. U.S. presidents almost always give the impression, or even publicly claim, that they run the country. They control the economy. They create jobs. They can fix and prevent recessions. They can cut the crime rate. They can make the schools better. They can give us freedoms and rights. But presidents should not have the power to control those systems. Government is not really the source of rights and freedom. And presidents cannot really and should not really control the country. Under the real U.S. Constitution, the president has a certain limited job to do, and controlling the country isn't it. So when it comes to domestic policy in the country, the less the president does, the better. He should not try to intervene in everything. He should stay out of almost everything domestic. But when it comes to international policy, in the U.S. as a nation-state, in relation to the other nation-states of the world, then the president has a job to do. And if he doesn't do it right, then the nation and the country will suffer. The president should control the State Department, and he should be the commander-in-chief of the military. That is his job under the Constitution. He is supposed to do that job, and the U.S. as a nation needs him to do it well. Between now and January 20th, 2025, Biden is supposed to be doing that job, but he isn't doing that job. He's incapable. We all know that. All the American people can do now is to hope that Biden is not called upon to do his job between today and January 20th, because he can't. We see from the example of Yalta and what happened after World War II as a result of what can occur when the president doesn't do his actual job. A global disaster can result. Why have the Democrat Party and the leftists of the United States put America in this position? And why are they keeping us in this position? How close are we? On September 12, 2024, Vladimir Putin said of the potential use of NATO long-range weapons against Russia, "If they do that, NATO is officially at war with Russia." The most horrific reality in all of human history is the fact that the people who control the U.S. government and the people who control the Russian government have enough nuclear weapons to kill billions of people and end the world. That power to end the world is in the hands of people who cannot be trusted. People whom you would not trust to babysit your children or use your credit card. They cannot be trusted. Many of those individuals are utterly incompetent, and their intentions are bad. Here's the point. The U.S. government and leftists who rule it have brought America to this place. We know that leftists, who always want more control of everything, are seldom able to run things when they get that control. But here in the 21st century, the actions of the leftists evince more than mere incompetence. Do you think it's just possible that the leftists who publicly say that they hate America, the leftists whose actions show that they hate America, might really hate America and want harm to befall our country? That the United States nation-state is at war with the American people? If so, what are we going to do about that? Because if there's anything we can do, we had better do it. The people who now control our government are going to destroy our country.
Thank you for your interest in Rightful Freedom. Please help us grow by liking and subscribing and commenting. We would love your feedback and see more content at our website, rightfulfreedom.com.